And you are being recorded.
Okay, we officially call to order. First up is the approval of February minutes. Do we have a motion?
I have two corrections.
Okay,
They're just the misspelling of town roads here in town. Under number 4, the update on businesses in town. The strange visual communications is it would be located at 125 Norman Hill, not normal. And the next line, when they talked about a daycare center on Route 193 at the junction of Robbins Road. Robbins is a double B.
yep, 2 Bs.
We're talking about our roads and towns. I figured they should be spelled properly.
Yeah, I should have caught that one.
Okay. Otherwise, they're fine, so I can accept them as amended.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, good. Motion passes.
I just messaged Charlie too, although who knows if he's paying attention to his Facebook.
Yeah, and he did get the email reminder too, so if he read his mail, he would have known that we're running late.
He responded to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Joanne and he responded. That's right.
Either, so.
All right. Joe, the treasurer report.
What we have left as of right now is $21,045.94.
And all of that is accounted for, right, Tara? That's going to be exhausted?
Yes, it just so happens to time out that we'll be carrying those balances for the most part right to the wire.
Yep.
Just again because the train wreck park money that is going to be used as leverage against that Connecticut Humanities grant for the signage, that grant is submitted in June. So I'm going to encumber it to a vendor, essentially whether we get the grant or not, in June. The pop-up shed money, I actually had a deposit check. I requested a deposit check for Dave Eddy today, but those funds are actually drawn from last year. And that's for him to finish the shed that we've got and build one more. So whatever else we have put aside, we'll pay out for those. Oh, here comes Ken. Once they're delivered. So, I've made the deposit and the rest of the funds are on delivery. And then next year's funds are next year's funds. That's what I meant to say. So the only piece that's really unaccounted for, and it's not really unaccounted for, is the funds that were for the 65 Main project.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Some of that might get decided on Monday.
Yeah, that was my last question. So we'll keep positive and okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And if things don't go our way on that project, then we will have a separate discussion on how to best use those for our purposes.
Yep. Okay. Very good.
Okay. Update on businesses in town. We didn't get any new startups or shutdowns this week or this month. We did have the ribbon cutting at Drifters right after our last meeting.
How did that go, by the way? I actually took out takeout from there the other day, but how did the ribbon cutting go?
No, it went pretty well. It was interesting because, I stayed a while, got a tour of the place. They've done some updates to it.
Yeah, downstairs looked nice. Yeah, it looked nice.
Yeah, they added one storage room is now a room to dine. And they redid the upstairs. They took the stage out from upstairs. The funny thing that we noticed after a while, not many Thompson people after the cutting, but all of the Dudley people had pretty much filled the place. So we're getting outside residents coming to Thompson.
Yeah, no, I don't know where these people were from, but when I took out takeout, there was a whole bunch of people there playing pool.
Yeah, they're from Drifters in Dudley.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they followed.
That was probably the clientele that they brought with them from Dudley.
I'm
It
gonna
is.
safely assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and the place was pretty full on that Saturday. And I was there with, a couple of Thompson people, and we looked around. We didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So
And
they brought their clientele.
the night I took out takeout, it was like a random Tuesday or Wednesday, and there was a lot of people there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's good to know.
How was the food?
Yeah.
It was very good. The burger was excellent.
Really?
Calamari was good. I don't want to tell you all the other things I had because I'm embarrassed, but you know what it is.
You've got a large family. You've got kids. You've got a wife.
That's
Come
a
on.
great excuse, Tara. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I tried the chicken wings, and they were good.
It's not like I had the damn salad. Let's put it that way.
Well, I am glad that some EDC members I can't remember why I didn't attend that day, and it may have been simply burnout from the week. In fact, I suspect it was, but I was glad to see. I was glad to see a couple of you guys there, and the interior pictures did look nice. So here comes Charlie. All right, he'll be in a second. Here he is. They're not actual businesses in town yet, but it's as good a place to mention this as anywhere. So since we overhauled the zoning regulations, we've had a lot of people coming in to the office during the day with ideas and proposals, two that seem likely to move forward, and they might both be on the agenda for P&Z on Monday. I'd have to double check. Neil Patel wants to add a new building on the same site.
Which site? The Thompson site or the Quinnebog site?
The one on River. They're both on Riverside. The Grosvenor-Dale site. Janet and he came in with a very nice looking plan. So they're going to come and do, I think, an informal presentation, possibly this coming Monday. And the other one is Northeast Sand and Gravel. They are just about spent with their mining operation up there. So now he's really trying to explore what to do with the site. So he's got some ideas, and those ideas include locating a nursery business in there and also having some other commercial space for rent on that same parcel, which is, I want to say he's got 40 acres back there, but I could be wrong. It's a sizable site, regardless. So I think that those things will be coming sooner rather than later, meaning before I die, I guess. And, I mean, they're people who own the properties, and they have things they want to do with them. So I'm feeling optimistic that we're starting to see the effects of our work making its way into the public sphere.
Yeah, great. Okay, does anybody else have anything regarding business updates? Okay, moving on, citizens' comments pertaining to agenda items.
Ken, are you acting as a citizen tonight?
I'm just sitting in, listening to what's going on and getting some info.
Me too.
It's great that things are continuing to move along with all of the resistance that we're getting from time to time. We just got to keep plowing ahead and keep the ship going forward. We will get there.
Yep. Okay, old business, we have EDC membership and alternates. I still haven't heard from anyone.
Well, sadly, Ann Montero didn't get the link. I swear that I sent it to her, but I just sent it to her twice via email and Facebook, so she might pop in. She is the person that I'm trying to press towards coming on this commission. And she is the owner of Flying Carpet Studio. They had that big corner spot in Putnam, and she moved here and is relocating her store here to her home property eventually. And we've got her roped in to do some events that run alongside the 11th Village to try to drive some foot traffic. So, you know, she's a person I'm really hoping to get substantively involved, and this is a perfect place for her.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't hear from her, if you want, I could always try to talk to her within the next month. I mean, sometimes I just
Oh,
kind of.
she's coming. Look at that. She's coming in right now.
Oh. There she is.
Wait until there she is. Anne, we were just talking about you.
Hi. I don't know why.
Hi. So everybody, this is, well, of course, we can't see her on the screen yet, but this is Ann Montero, recently transplanted to Thompson and taking her business with her from Putnam to Thompson eventually. Guys, why don't you all introduce yourselves for Mr. Chairman?
Hi, I'm one of the Bryans. I'm the chair of this group.
Okay.
Next, pick another Brian.
Santos, you're up.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Brian Santos. Welcome,
Hi.
welcome.
Brian
We may as well
LaFrido
complete
here,
the
and also welcome to our little group, I hope.
Yeah,
Especially
Tommy,
since you're not named Brian.
and I hope that you will feel welcome and participate with us. We definitely need ideas from the business community. We have some, but we could always use more.
Okay. I went to a meeting before. That was a different group, though, huh?
You might have come in on branding, maybe.
Yep. Okay.
They're very similar. There's only two members of difference.
Okay.
And what's the name of your business again, Ann?
I had the Flying Carpet Studio in downtown Putnam. I was on the corner across from the Antiques Marketplace.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys didn't let Joanne introduce herself.
Thank you, Tara. What is just a men's club? That's why.
Surely not.
No, it's not. But sometimes I do feel. Well, never mind. Yes, my name's Joanne. I'm the treasurer, and I've been on this committee for quite a while. So welcome. I'd love to see somebody new and fresh, and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the reason we were just talking about you, Anne, is that, and I think I did mention that there is a vacancy on this commission, and I think that you are perfectly suited to it because of your experience as a small business owner, because of the energy that I know that you have in terms of events planning and marketing ideas and connecting with people. So you can consider this an invitation.
Okay.
And we'll see how the evening goes.
Okay, thanks.
Well, what we have, Ian, we have openings for 2 alternates. So it's a 5-person group right now. We have no alternates.
Okay.
So you would sit in and, fill in when, officially fill in when one of the regulars is out, but you're not excluded.
Okay.
At the meetings, we treat everybody the same. It's just that you would take the official spot if somebody was out.
Okay. I'm just happy to help in my new town.
Okay, no, it is. I'm glad you tuned in anyway.
Oh, thanks. I did have some news.
What's that?
We were talking earlier about Fairy Fest and putting Fairy Fest up on the Common and perhaps the date of August 28th. And I spoke to the Mason House and they're interested.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So I haven't talked to the Historical Society. They may want to do something, or the church might want to do something. So I'll have to get in touch with those two people. But if everybody's excited about this and thinks the August date is a good date, then I'll start putting it up on Facebook and things.
Yeah, the reason of the 3 dates that you sent, we're kind of going out of order on the agenda, but
Oh, sorry.
but no, I was about to say, but who cares?
Yeah,
I don't have the agenda up. I'm going to open it right now.
No worries there.
Citizen
The
comments.
reason that the 28th of the 3 dates that you sent over was the one that we landed on was because we just got information in the last 2 days, and Charlie, you'll be interested in this, that RIMACON is running. And that is the date that they will be running through town. So RIMACON, Ann, is a distance running event that is a relay that goes through Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and it has a leg through Thompson. So unlike some events where people just kind of run straight through and never stop, there are teams that go in cars and may have some spectators involved with them. So there will be a period of time in between legs where team members or support staff or whatever will be in town. So that would be a great day to sort of push people towards the ferry doors on the common. And then, if we have the vendor aspect down in the 11th Village, which is what we really want to try to press there for a number of reasons, then that's having 3 things working together to drive activity.
I love that idea.
2 quick points. Number 1 is, in case you didn't know, the common is owned by the church, and they should not have any problems with it. I'm also involved with the Historical Society, and I'll raise a note about that at our next board meeting. Tyrell will tell you I'm all about working things together and synergy.
Great.
yeah, Charlie's in 17 committees, so he likes to.
No, I'm only 4, 5 or 6. I don't know, but they're all related in my logic.
Okay. I understand that. So, well, that's great. I think that I will need a few just names of people to connect with, like at the church and the Historical Society, and anybody else up there you think that I should notify.
I'll send an email to Tara, and she can forward it on to you with the contact names of the church.
Great.
And there's the new pastor in the last year, and I think that she is very interested in raising the profile and involvement of the community.
Great.
Charlie, if you're talking about Doe, I think she already moved on.
Oh,
Really?
I'm fine.
I think so. I think that she took that was a temporary assignment and that she already took another one. You know who knows more about that though is Leslie. So I am not necessarily the one to ask.
Okay.
But let's come back to the Maker Faire events and to satisfy Yasino's sense of order.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Before we go any further, since we started talking about EDC membership and alternates, if you're interested, Ann, there is a form to fill out. You can get it on the website, or else I can get it to you, and you sign it, and then we get you approved. This is not pressure. I'm just saying, if you decide, we'll get that done.
So the form would be on the Thompson Town Hall website?
It is. It's not the
Yeah.
easiest form to find though. So
Then
why don't I
send it to
just pluck it? I'm going to pluck it online and send it to you right now.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah,
So
like
you
I
guys
said,
talk amongst yourselves.
This isn't pressure, but it just
No
You know-
pressure, no pressure.
Charlie pressures.
I was involved in a lot of things when we were in Putnam, but COVID made it a big decision for me to move to Thompson. And I bought a piece of property on 193 that has 2 lots. And so we're in the process of, we're working with the engineer to get that second piece of land to be my new little shop. So I'll be opening the business again, whenever the show gets built. I haven't actually found a builder, but we're moving along. So,
Okay, good.
yeah. So I mean, this is great. I've had everyone's money from Fairy Fest for a year and a couple months,
including mine, I think.
Yeah, and I feel a responsibility to these folks that they keep. It was a beautiful event. Everyone came dressed up in costumes and just the smiles and it was just a beautiful event, and I can just see it being beautiful on the Common in Thompson. So I'm really excited to be able to put it up on Facebook and kind of let everybody know, the vendors, and we already have the artist book. We have a harpist and a hula hoop dancer that dances with the kids, and it's a really nice event. So I'm so glad that you guys are able to give me whatever support you can.
I'm just over here smirking because I can picture the 3 Bryans showing up in costumes.
Yeah.
I was going to volunteer to help since I'll be retired in 2 weeks, guys.
Excellent.
But I don't think about costumes.
There were a lot of men in costumes.
Come on, Brian. I've seen you in costume at my house.
We had
twice.
Well, yeah. Well, that wasn't in public, so. Hey, Ann, 193 is a big area of real estate. Where are you going to be located? Because I'm not far from 193 on my end of town.
Okay.
Where are you?
So, you know where the cat shelter was that just closed?
Yes.
So
Up by Madison Avenue?
Okay, so I'm in between the cat shelter and Madison Avenue.
Okay, you're not far from me then. You're almost across from Sunset Hill, and I'm on Lowell Davis, the next road up from there, heading away from the Common. And you're not far from Charlie. He lives just down the hill from the Common.
You know where the little pond is on the road?
Yeah.
If you were coming down from the church, and you'd see the little pond on the right, left-hand side. We're on the right, in the green Gambrel 2-story.
Did you have some yard sales there this past fall?
We did the pop-up artist yard sales.
Yes, okay. I stopped.
Excellent. Yeah,
I stopped too.
I'm glad this is working out, because I miss that helping and that creativity, and all those people that put together the amazing events that have happened in Putnam.
And I was just talking to Tara about this on messaging a couple of weeks ago, because I saw a thing where they did miniature buildings and stuff, and I've always loved modeling. I've just never gotten good at it, and I said, I love the ferry event that they have in Putnam, and it would be great if we could do something along those lines without stealing from it. And she mentioned someone might be coming to town.
because I kind of own Fairy Fest.
Yeah.
The PBA did not, and the Putnam Arts Council, they supported it, but they were not the producers of it. So we're not stealing anything. And I've already talked to the gang down there, and they really feel like they can't handle it right now. They put up for all the restaurants, the barriers on the street, so the restaurants move out onto the street and put up tables. Yeah. And that's where Fairy Fest was. So without those spaces, we couldn't have it. So this is good. And we're not stepping on any toes.
See, everything works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to. So, okay, I'm sorry that I got off the agenda again.
No worries.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's good because we get to know you a little bit this way anyway, so.
Oh, thank you. This is nice.
All right, so following the agenda.
Yes.
Next up, we're still in old business. We have the income account status, which is coming up in the next meeting, Tara.
Yeah, I confirmed with Dottie, Orla, and Aaron that will be, so they're in budget season right now, but they still have a regular meeting ahead of the budget discussion tomorrow. So we should be on that agenda. I have made it, the timing didn't work out the last 2 months. By the time I remembered it, Dottie had already posted those agendas for the last 2 months. So this time we got it in time. I expect this is just going to be pro forma. I've already explained via email, the purpose. There's no reason for the Board of Finance not to approve it. They just need to, sort of make the sign of the cross over it and be done with it. And then that will be set up. So we will have that income account to take in fees from the 11th Village, Maker Fairs, Community Garden, and then it's up to, we'll have to discuss how those funds as they come in are distributed amongst the sponsoring organizations. The main two obviously being EDC and Recreation, because Recreation is hosting all of our forms, and they have a huge planning piece of the Maker Fair especially, but the 11th Village too, and really the Community Garden. So the purpose of those funds is mostly going to be to sustain the programs over time, but some of those funds should offset whatever costs Recreation incurs for sure, and then possibly some additional support there as well. But we can hammer those details out once we start taking in real money. Right now, Recreation is holding all of the money for the Maker Fairs, and the one Community Garden plot that we have confirmed is rented. We might have one rental confirmed for the 11th Village for one of the 2-week sessions in September. I don't think we have any yet for opening day. So that's going to be, we'll talk about that more in a minute, and I'll put Ann back on the spot there in a second. But the revolving account should be set up, I would expect, by the end of this month then.
Okay, so yeah, we'll follow up next month just to report that it's done and it'll be done. The next item is just to report on the EDC budget for 2020 to 2021, where we had proposed a $33,000, $33,427, and we got cut $10,000, bringing it down to $23,519. And if you leave recording secretary and intern wages alone, it leaves us with $16,000, which is short for what we were going to spend on train wreck and 11th Village, and so that's the deal.
Yeah, well, let's ask Ken his perspective on that in a second. I should also point out that is the Selectmen's proposed budget after the initial go through. I have yet to present to Finance. Finance could either cut again, or I'm gonna strongly pitch for them to put some of those funds back in. I can certainly make the arguments. There's six people I got to convince. They're not going to put the full 10 in. We know that.
Yeah, so they're doing, I was at the budget meeting that night. So now they're starting to do the line by line analysis.
Yep.
Just if you can, if someone knows when the EDC budget meeting is, when they go through that line item, because it seemed like there's a lot of meetings that they're going to have. It seemed almost like it was weekly. Is that wrong?
They are weekly until they go through the book. And they do not tell you which sections are coming up on any given evening.
Oh, perfect.
Except that the first time they do it, they do go through in page order. So for those of us who end up getting sort of stuck listening to every one, we can give the alert, like we're pretty sure we're going to come up in the next one or whatever. And there's a little crew of the three of us who sort of have each other's back. Like they went over the town clerk's budget last week and Renee wasn't on. So Leslie and I were immediately texting her, dial in right now.
Yeah.
So we do cover each other. But, our budget numbers are mine's 6,000 and this one is 6205, I think. So it'll be about halfway through, but it still depends on how quickly they get through the other
They're
departments.
doing it Thursday nights, right? I
Yes.
don't know why I want to say that. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's their regular meeting night, and they just extend them until they're done.
Yep.
Wasn't there a minimum as a percentage of the budget that they had to give EDC, or is this still over the minimum?
No. The go ahead, Ken.
There's a recommended amount by the state guideline, so much of the general
Yeah, it's
grant
1/20
fund.
1/20th of 1% of the total grand list, and we
Yeah.
were just under that. But it's not a rule. It's a suggested number.
Yeah,
And it is certainly helpful having that number written in the statute, because I can walk in there and say that, which I will be doing. But again, that is totally a recommended number, not a mandated number. But we have the projects we're working on, and we can show how we would use those funds. So it's not.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a random ask, and I do not expect them to put the full 10 back. I didn't expect them to give us the full amount when we made that proposal. But I was not expecting such a drastic haircut right out of the gate. And Ken, I think this would be an appropriate time for you to comment.
Yeah, the majority of the other half of the 2/3 of the Board of Selectmen could not. They were trying to make cuts like the Board of Finance was going to do, and they did not see a lot of the benefit of what the EDC is doing, and the momentum that we've gotten in the last few years. As we all know, we can justify everything that you guys are doing, and they should have just left the money in there. You guys took a cut last year to get the budget where it was needed. I did recommend, to no avail, to keep it there because all the projects we've been doing have been very worthwhile. The 65 Main, the Maker Fair, we've come a long way in the last few years, and we've got a lot of enthusiasm, and it was falling on deaf ears. And like I said, the other 2/3 wanted to make cuts as if they were the Board of Finance, and it's not the way. You got to put, I've always preached, you put into the budget what the town needs, and then it goes to the Board of Finance in order to say what they're willing to, finance, and you make your arguments. And hopefully we'll probably get to economic development tomorrow night, I would imagine, but they do have their regular meeting that is starting that off tomorrow. So you got a regular Board of Finance meeting that will be going to the budget aspect. I don't know what they've got. I haven't looked at the agenda, but they are done by 9 o'clock. They try and get.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to EDC tomorrow. They only got through, the 1700 account last week, and that's with 2 hours of budget discussion and no regular meeting ahead. But Santos, Lafredo, I have you guys in my phone. I will text you if they do get to us, or if it looks like they are going to get to us.
Yep.
Okay.
please let me know. I would like to lend my support. I strongly agree with what Ken just said. Make them say no. We should ask for what we know we need and make them say no.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah, and you do that. Most of the budget, if anybody has looked at our budget that we worked on, most of the departments have stayed pretty flat, except for what the cost of living is out there. So they really should move along fairly quick, once they get into it, whether they get to the EDC or not, because I don't remember if you're before the fire departments or not, because I'm sure the fire departments will have quite a bit of discussion on them alone. And of course, we still have to tackle DPW, which is, even though their budget's been trimmed fairly well, a lot of the real discussion will become with the capital expenditures, which is the driving force in the budget. But it will be interesting, and we'll continue to advocate for continuing to move the town forward as best as we can. Just hopefully we can persuade some of the Board of Finance. It's a good idea. We're in a positive direction.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to new business. We still have review, prioritize economic development tasks from POCD.
I can pull that up if you want to take a look at those, and that's a strategy line item. So we can go over it, or you can table that to when we have a normal start time. It's up to you. It does not. I've not heard back from my buddy Dave Quinn, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably not going to come in. So that is probably going to be an item we skip over.
Yeah, I'm okay for tabling that to next month too.
Yeah, but just to show support for developing those tasks, Tara, I just let's come up with a game plan and an action list, and let's do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the purpose of having the line item in the agenda. I think we've all agreed to the general outline, but what now are the specifics of that outline? And I think the shortest term tasks, the 6 months, the less than a year tasks, are all underway in some way, but I'd like to see maybe some deadlines for when, just off the top of my head, when the welcome packet will be updated, and what the specific strategy is for getting that into hands of new businesses, just so we can state it and have it as a prompt.
Yep.
I like prompts. Action prompts are very useful for getting things done, I find.
Yeah, and on that, looking at the action steps, the first one was the revolving account for EDC, and then the welcome. And we're trying to get a handle on the TBA, the Business Association, because I used to bring the list of new businesses to them, and EDC and TBA can welcome them to town and tell them about the Business Association. And it's been hard to keep meetings going. So it's something we're working on right now, as of a couple weeks ago. So more.
I love to hear that people are working on things.
Yeah, it's tough. It's been tough with COVID, and people like to meet face to face, and they're all zoomed out, and it's been hard to get meetings together. So actually, I had a long talk with Charlene a couple weeks ago too. So we'll be handling this from two directions. Again, I'll update more next month. Next is the vendor agreement for the 11th Village project.
So this I think we can actually leave that off entirely and just talk about it under the new business updates or progress reports, I guess is the second item, because I'm sure that's on there. I mean, the vendor agreement we did hammer out, and it is up and active.
And that's fine. The only reason I left it on there is because it wasn't completed last time.
Okay.
So you can say that it's been hammered out, then it just didn't get dropped. So that's
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's online and live.
Okay. Now the next one I put on in response to Brian's the Santos one sheet.
Yeah. Is 3 and 4 the same? The one sheet is kind of screwing me up. I'm like, I'm the one that put this together. I don't even know what one sheet even is.
Tara called it the Santos one sheet. My idea, and this is just to throw it out there, was when you mentioned the one sheet, Brian, I thought of Did You Know, which is something I do for the car club.
I see.
It's just a fun fact about your whatever you're focused on. So it would be
Sure,
Tom.
I got you.
And it would be something that we could change monthly on the website. Did you know? Just to build some town pride and get people to look at the website.
Yep.
No, so I have well, like 3 pages.
Sure. So I'll lead on this one a little bit. So we had obviously a nice meeting with Sullivan and Lashane the other time, kind of like an icebreaker conversation. Thanks, Tira, for bringing them to the table. Did you happen to hear from them any further? I'm not expecting.
Well, I think we're on hold until we have funds to pay them.
Yeah, sure.
So I think they are expecting that we will contact them as that gets closer. Sure. And that's the case. So I had asked my colleague, Dave Quinn, who is the marketing vendor. His firm, Quinn and Harry, are the marketing vendor for the Eastern Region Tourism District, to come in and also talk about that from their perspective, because they are very high level, super high level in terms of how they think about digital connectivity, effective use of all the media fora.
That's fantastic. That's really good.
Yeah. So I had initially said, well, if we go out to RFP on it, certainly bid, but I've since told him we're actually pretty comfortable with Sullivan Lashane, and they're the incumbent on the project. Like, they already did the design work. So I think he understands that he was coming in as sort of a gratis, this is my general sort of zoomed out view of how to do this. I think he will probably come into branding instead. Just when we pushed this meeting back to 7, that seemed to make it not feasible for him.
Yep, sure.
So,
okay. All right. Well, what I plan on doing is I'm going to try to, by the next EDC meeting, expand on the did you know and the outline, and kind of maybe using that newsletter that I shared with you guys. So I'm actually going to just say, I'm probably going to assign, each of us, like, okay, give me a little bit more information about recreation. I'll turn to Charlie about the trails, or Leslie about the actual rec program, and kind of outline some more things. And maybe, Yacino and I can do restaurants, and Brian can do services or something like that. So I want to try to start putting these parts and pieces together. So when Sullivan and Lashane, or your new partner here, come into play, we have content. Right. We have content ready to go, and then they can spruce it up into something more special, and then have a strategy on marketing it a little bit better. So I'll try to have something prepared for the next meeting. I will say I do have a lot of GMP, guaranteed maximum prices, coming in for my clients, and it's just been a busy time, but that's what's in my mind. That's what's in my mind right now.
Well, you're doing yeoman's work on it, and personally, I thank you for really pushing us on it, because I do think it's a next step for us. And, taking the first step to the next step is often the hardest, because you have to break the patterns that you've now just relearned, right, to advance them even further. So, but it'll just get easier each time.
Yeah, well, maybe Ann can weigh in too on Putnam's strategy. I think I'm thinking way outside the box on marketing, a town, right? Mm-hmm. But maybe Putnam was doing something very strategic that we're just not aware of, right? Okay. And I'd like to try to just expand on that.
Well, I was the VP of the PBA for a year, so I have kind of an inside view of that. I'm not sure how you guys are structured. You all work together, it sounds like, but in Putnam, there was like a certain structure. The PBA actually financed a lot of the things that happened in downtown Putnam.
Sure.
Around. So I guess I'm learning as I go by listening to you guys. But I'd certainly be able to give you any help I can.
Sure. I mean, just so you know, the mission right now is very informative. All we're trying to do is inform people of what we have to offer, and that's services, recreation, what's our history, restaurants, things like that. And I won't go through the whole spiel again. But then I think in the future it's, okay, what's our events, right? And our events are, we could have a cycling, we have it uses the trails, and maybe other specialty things like we just got done talking about, the ferries, and stuff like that. So it's just future food for thought. That's all I'm saying for right now.
Sure.
Whoops. Now let me ask, Tira may know, for the did you know that I had been thinking of was not the same as Brian's, but it is historical. It's kind of a one line or a two line posted on one of the sites. And I mean, for instance, it's the very first sentence I have. The town was named after Sir Robert Thompson. He was an English landowner. We were incorporated in 1785. It's just, did you know, and the fact. And we have the train wreck and Marianapolis and the historic buildings. And, I imagine our historic Joey Martino would have a lot to probably contribute. Just to a one-liner or one or two-liner that we would update on a monthly basis. And I don't know where we would put that. If people are interested in that, it was just something I thought coming from Brian's idea.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize that was the difference between the two. So I was also thinking they were redundant items. Yes, that is great. So our first intern, Jonathan, did do things like that on the social media feed, less on the website itself because the town website has been more static. It's a little harder to make that fluid, not impossible, mind you. We just hired the new intern. So we should get back up to speed relatively quickly. She's got basketball season to close out, so she's only in a couple of days a week right now, but then her time opens up. And we have all that money. We didn't pay an intern up until this point that needs to be expended by the end of June. So she can work pretty much as many hours as she wants right now. Okay. And I'm pretty sure we have the work for her to do. So that, to me, Brian, is you coordinating with the intern, social media, maybe a place on the website as well. But I think we do need to make the website more fluid in order for it to be effective there. I could be wrong on that. I've been wrong about that kind of thing before, but.
We get people to check the web if they're interested in this, and then they would see the events and they would see what Leslie posted, and like I said, it was a thought, and so I can get with the intern.
Yeah, and her name is Zainab. I forget her last name. Begins with A. She's a junior rising senior into next year, so we'll have her for probably a little over about a year and a half, I would guess.
Okay, what's her name?
She's a Tortola?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know her. She was on the basketball team with Brianna.
What's her name?
Zainab.
Zainab. Yeah, we just called her Z.
ZEYNEP or NUP. Zainab.
We just called her Z. Her parents are very nice.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I thought I heard it wrong, because that's a new name to me.
It's actually a very common Turkish women's name. Her family's Turkish.
Yeah.
I have a thought based on something you just said about more work had been done on the social media platform than on the town's website. And it seems that we might be able to have this woman take a link, like, for example, the one that you just sent over to Ann about the openings for EDC, but just take the link off of the town's website and put it in a post on social media. Did you know?
Yep.
Thing. And that way we get a little bit of cross-pollination and get people looking at both sites.
Yep.
Yeah, that's totally the kind of thing that she would be set up to do. She's got admin status on the Facebook page, Instagram account, and on certain aspects of the website, essentially the ones that would allow her to post news stories and that sort of thing.
She has the same email, that's intern@thompson.org.
Intern
Okay.
at.
Yeah,
And
we've got some,
Renee and Leslie are working with her out of the gate in terms of optimizing schedules for posting, which is work that the first intern had done some research on. So we have a little bit of a framework, but I was able to find some really good online resources that get used by nonprofits in fundraising and how you set your calendar to promote fundraising goals. They translate very, very well to what we're trying to do. So yeah, and fixing those things in there that are not like, hey, come to our thing, but that are just informational are definitely an important piece of that, because you can't always be asking somebody for something. Sometimes you just want to give them information, let them know something interesting, you know, the human interest part, and there's a balance to that. So that's a long way of answering your question that yes, that is a good idea, and we will go after it.
okay, I'm going to send her a note that Natchung Epic bike event is at the end of the month. And I'll send her a note to ask her to post that.
Okay.
Okay, now, progress reports. The ZMAP update was going to be your friend, Kira?
Yes, I do have an update. It is the guy who was going to come in tonight, Quinn and Harry. That firm is the one that we awarded the contract to for the Z Fold brochure and the digital jumps and all that. So he and Gene Davis at Connecticut RC&D and I had a preliminary meeting on Monday. They're getting all the contracts signed. My immediate task now is to form the working group. So it's a 7-town partnership plus Connecticut RC&D and Connecticut Deep. Obviously, I am representing Thompson, but I'm not only representing Thompson since I'm also a member of the ERTD. So I would like one other person to be a part of that working group. You know, Charlie and Lafredo are the two most natural fits there because they are both on this commission and on trails. So you guys can arm wrestle for it. I don't know how frequently we will be meeting, and I'm sure that at some point Dave Quinn or his guy Dave Jensen, who does the digital stuff, will be coming into this group or a group made up of members of EDC, branding and trails. You know, we have to talk about that to present some initial ideas. But in the development of the general format, you know, I think all the towns need to be involved from go. So I don't know. I will now entertain please to be a part of the working group.
Please? Please, I plead with you to take me. I'll have more time. I don't know how stretched Charlie is in other areas. I know he's more creative than me, but I'm certainly willing to take on additional assignments to keep myself busy.
I don't think we're going to keep a super aggressive calendar on this, at least with the I mean, I don't think we're going to be having weekly meetings or anything. You know, monthly at most, I would say, and then maybe with some breakouts for the individual towns here and there.
I would say in the short term, my schedule's probably more flexible than Brian's, but there's no way that we can do virtual arm wrestling, so you're not going to be able to see that. But at any rate, I'm perfectly willing to work out for a while or step out of the way, and maybe if Brian's schedule allows, we can both sit in and then take assignments away from the meeting and work on them separately.
Like I said, other than personal stuff, my schedule, you know, vacations and stuff, my schedule's open after next month. So, but again, I know you have a much more creative input and I don't want to stifle that. So again, if we can both be there, if not, I'm happy to do it. Or I just know sometimes
I mean,
you get.
I'm the project manager, so I can take as many people as I want. And if you both want to do it, I'll find room for you. I do think that we also need to maintain balance. You know, we are a lead partner on this, but we're not the only partner. So, you know, that's the only, I don't want to walk in with all 5 of us, for example, but
Yeah.
I think 2 is fair.
I agree. And I also think that, as I said a moment ago, we might sit in at a meeting and then pull back when it's over. And Brian and I say, well, you know, A, B, and C is something that I can do. Well, he says, well, I'd rather do B. I'll say, okay, do B. You know, I'm perfectly willing to share the load.
I think this is going to be a process that's going to be very similar to the branding process in that it's going to be reviewing formatting, ideas, looks, how effective is the document that's being created, how effective is the digital tie-in. But, you know, we have to have the funds from the state expended by the end of the fiscal year. And right now we are fingers crossed hoping to go to print in early June. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. At the very latest, we're going to have these 6,000 Z-fold maps by October. I don't think we're going to hit Connecticut Trails Day at the beginning of June. I just don't see how that's possible. But we might get them in hand by the end of June. So yeah, it's moving forward. It's actually happening.
And I have to apologize too. You know, it's always up to Brian and Charlie. Unlike Brian, see, I retired and I'm having trouble fighting off the new customers. It turns out there's nobody that does what I do. And
Right. I don't think people are going to come to my house to shop. So I think I'm good there.
That's the downside of not just being able to quit your company when you are the company.
Yeah.
So my free time has not freed up. But anyway, moving on.
Well, I'm gonna plan on a Lafredo Obert duo joining me then.
Okay. Website notes. Yeah, I don't have anything for website notes this month.
Yeah, I think it's just a work in development with everything that we've talked about already.
Yeah, POCD action steps is redundant. CME wayfinding and plan and signage. It's next will be whenever Tara submits another grant.
Yeah,
application.
tangential to that, only because we paid CME partly out of the IOB funds. I encumbered the rest of the IOB funds today on a PO to Graphics Unlimited for the Charlene sign. So there was more of the IOB funding left over than I expected. So the actual amount that we have to put towards that is just over $20,000 out of the total $36,000 to $38,000 nut. And I called Graphics Unlimited today to tell them that we didn't get the grant to do the wayfinding program this year, but I'm going to try again next year, but also to have them refresh that quote, because I am applying for 2 grants through the same AARP program. They're placemaking grants. I'll talk about the other one in a minute, but one of them would be to come up with the rest of the funding to put the damn sign up finally, because everybody wants it. But we're not putting any more money towards it from this commission. You've done more than your fair share. Some other municipal entity or set of private donors has now got to take some of this load unless I can get grant funding. So that's what I'm submitting for, and the notification period on that is June.
Okay. Now you're up with the 65 Main and the Turtleette trustees meeting.
Why don't you take this, Brian?
Well, as I said at the end of the previous meeting that Tira and I were just in, let's just put it this way. A lot of heart and soul went into that response. Not only the initial proposal, but the response that Tira put together. And I think they are really reading it, taking a hard look at it. I feel like it's moving in a positive direction. There's a few on there that are still questioning the overall game plan. Meaning, one of the questions that popped up was, truly, who at town hall is representing the businesses in town? When a new business comes in, who do they go talk to, right? And then I had to jump in there and say that the EDC is coming up with like a an introductory letter, not only to the new businesses, but to old businesses. And I even mentioned your name, Brian. Yes, that you want to make sure that you're handshaking with people and welcoming them. That I did fail to mention the TBA, which I forgot about that for whatever reason, but
it's okay. Yeah. And you're right. Before this COVID, I would actually go to the meetings and then bring up TBA.
Sure.
Meeting business owners. This pandemic's put a damper on a lot of stuff.
Let's just say, I'll end it with this. We gave them a lot of solid information with solid costs, with solid responses, and it will be a great thing for this town to support that building, get it out of its current state of just complete abandonment for the past 7 years, support the town, show the growth with the Riverside Mill project, show the growth with the concrete and the sidewalks, show support for this town and move forward. And quite honestly, I feel like it's a win-win for everybody. They're really only going to put up $100,000. The rest will be in funding. And then at the end of the day, if it all fails, they can still sell a brand new renovated building and recollect not only their money, but about 150 grand, at least according to my figures. Right. And then go from there. So I don't see why they wouldn't move forward with it, just based on that simple premise. But who the hell knows? And we're going to find out on Monday night.
Yes, that's right. They are calling a special meeting. Yacino was in when Santos and I were talking about this, but the rest of you weren't. There is going to be a special meeting of the trustees, 6:00 Monday night. Santos and I are going to pull another double because we're going to sit with the trustees and then go straight into a 2-hour P&Z meeting. So be it. But this is supposed to just be, last questions and a vote by the trustees. To the point that Brian was just raised about, and it was Wurge who raised this question, and he's been asking great questions all along. He even said in this meeting we just got out of, the reason he raised that point of where do people go is that in addition to thinking of this 65 main rehab structure in all the ways that we have been thinking of it as an incubator space, a work share space, that it becomes a natural home for that kind of welcome, an economic welcome center. Whether EDC holds meetings there or TBA holds meetings there, or it's some kind of cooperative of those groups that sort of half staffs it at certain times, or that it becomes a center for economic activity that is not located in town hall, right? Because town hall is a multifunctional, multifaceted municipal center. It has its purpose and use. And part of that it has to do with welcoming new businesses, is in that you have to register a trade certificate and go to the town clerk and sometimes talk to the CEO. But it is not, in its function, an economic engine. It's a municipal engine. So this would be a very different way of locating the idea of business within the town of Thompson. And that was the point he was clearly trying to make. Whether it broke through to any of the people who needed to hear that message, I cannot say.
Yeah, I just wanted them to know that EDC is having a role in that. And, I don't want it to make it seem like we're not doing anything on this table, because that's the wrong perception. altogether, as well. So anyway.
So I felt a little more positive coming out of the meeting than I did going into it I am alternately optimistic and pessimistic as anyone is. But I certainly think Brian is correct. We've made the factual argument. There's not a lot of aspects that we haven't at least covered to the extent we can with a currently hypothetical project. I mean, there's only so far you can take answers until you're allowed to move forward. But I think we have demonstrated all of the ways in which we can think about this project, the ways it can be funded. I keep finding new sources of potential funding. I just found out about one this week that has to do with the Department of Revenue Services, right? That was new information that I passed on to them today, which has to do with private businesses and corporations being able to get a tax credit if they donate towards municipal or nonprofit projects that get registered with DRS. You just got to get on that registry. So that, opens up a new avenue of how to get this thing off the ground. We have all these ways, but until somebody, meaning the town or the trust, because those are the only two relevant entities at that scale, says, yes, we will put up the match funds, and many of those avenues remain closed. Right. So that's the argument I keep hitting.
Yeah, the thing that upsets me, and I don't know if that's the right word, but we have come up with a solid plan of attack that's full circle for 65 Main. And if they say no, there's just no other plan in place other than the word no. And it'll just sit there. And it's just upsetting. It's upsetting. And we'll hope for positive news on Monday night.
Yep.
So can I just,
So once they post that, go ahead, Ann.
is 65 Main the mill across from the library?
No, 65 Main is a house that the town owns that was deeded in perpetuity to the town by the same family that donated the building for the original high school, which that's the administrative building now. It's been vacant for 12 years. It used to be Teague's offices, and they upgraded to a purpose-built facility in 2012. So since that time, it's been vacant because there's limitations on what the town is allowed to do. They're not allowed to just knock it down. They're not allowed to just sell it unless they get relief from the Attorney General from the terms and conditions of the original will. So it's been my pet initiative for almost 2 years now. How do we reclaim not just the house, but the grounds on which it's located as a revitalization project? And we started by putting a community garden on the ground to sort of anchor the property, which is a beautiful garden. It's open to the public for the first time this year. We maintained it last year. And then the short form, and I'll give you the super short form, of what we've proposed as a use for the site is to rehab it and put it into use as a small business incubator and work share space. I have envisioned it as focusing on small agricultural and food system startups, but that programming can be whatever we determine it to be. Mm-hmm. The important thing is we need the site to be fixed. Okay. So it's become a little bit of a political football, and we're working through that. The proposal is strong. If you feel like reading 98 pages of impassioned argument, I can forward it to you at any time. And if it's to the point where we get a no right now, I table it for 2 years and come back when there's a change of administration. I mean, that's the way it's going to be. People change. the constitution of boards changes, of administrations changes.
Mhm.
And if in this iteration, it's not a favorable environment for economic development, we'll come back when it is more favorable. Obviously, the longer we wait, the worse the condition of the building, but the concept remains. And, I'll work with what I get.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the 11th Village Update. Just so you know, there were a couple people I said last month that I had in mind. I haven't been able to reach one of them. He kind of fell off the face of the earth last October. And the other one is planning to set up with a pop-up. And she did sign up for the Maker Fair. So we have at least one potential for setting up with one of the tent slots of the village.
Okay. So this is where I wanted to circle back to Anne. Anne, what's your timeline for reopening your studio?
Well, I mean, it would be great if it was open by August 28th. We've been delayed and delayed because of snow and COVID. But hopefully things are going to get going this week. The engineer's coming out to put the pins in. So I'm looking for a good builder if anybody knows one. And then we'll be open. So hopefully.
So this is the reason I ask.
Yes.
Are you still carrying inventory?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about being one of the first vendors in one of the mini shops? Essentially you would be providing the proof of concept, and that's the first 3 weekends in May. And I can tell you more about, forward you all the links and stuff, or we can talk about it actually in the Maker Faire meeting next Wednesday afternoon as well.
Okay.
But we have not filled those spots yet, and you seem like a perfect candidate while you are waiting to open your own permanent location to fill this shop. They're 10 by 10 custom built sheds. Dave Eddy at Orchard Product made the first one. He's going to retrofit a decorative facade to it, and he's going to start work on the second one within a week or so. They are open for rentals at the cost of, I don't want to quote the cost because I'll get it wrong, but it's all on the website, and I'll forward that to you. We're doing them for 2 or 3 week periods. The first one is a 3-week period. So the first 3 weekends of May, you have to be there the Saturday and Sunday. You have the option of being there other days as well. And these are why we're trying to plan more supplemental events around them. So that first weekend, that opening day, that Maker Faire would be driving foot traffic.
Right.
Other days, there would be less event-driven traffic, but we want to, get people used to the idea there. So that's, me putting you on the spot, and you don't have to say yes, no right now, but just, where my head's at with this, it seems to me like a good opportunity for you while you're waiting to put that together.
Is it handmade? Are you hoping for all handmade or?
Not necessarily. The only things we've excluded are MLM vendors and, like guys selling appointments for Anderson windows, right? Because that's not what we want it to be. So, and we talked about this a lot, like whether we wanted just handmade, whether we wanted just growers, and people like you and antiques resellers and used book sellers, stuff came up that we said, oh yeah, but that would be great. That would be great. So we opened it way up, and we only excluded those exploitive categories in the end, so that people had options. So again, I think you would be a great model. I'm going to start talking to some of the arts organizations that I belong with as a member of the municipality to see if we can get some artist co-ops in there. But there's going to be 2 of them, and they're open from May through October in 2 or 3 week increments. So you could take one for 8, 9 weeks if that suited your purpose. But the minimum increment is 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. Yeah, why don't you send me off some stuff on that too when you get a chance?
I will do
I'll be
that.
at the meeting.
Awesome.
So, I forgot to mention, I did bring it up at the TBA and explain the whole premise and the pricing. And so some of those people, I said, if you have any friends, who want to start a business, or they're doing a business in their basement, or so, we took that avenue too. I don't know if it made it into the minutes, because the minutes always come out just before the next meeting, but.
So it's sort of an open air market is the idea? You have a roof.
Right. Right. So ultimately, there's going to be 10 of these little shops. We're starting with 2. We'll have 2 more probably before the end of this season. And there's another possibility for even another 2 on top of that, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. And each of the facades is going to be based on one of the historic buildings in town. That's why it's called the 11th Village. It's one for each of the 10 villages.
Okay. Yep.
So we are supplementing, particularly while there's only 2 of them on the ground, by, again, driving more events down to Riverside Park. That's one of the motivators to have you have the vendor aspect of Fairy Fest down on the park. So you can have, the scavenger hunt idea with the fairy doors on the common and the park and the Mason House, and, work something out. But the vendor traffic, we want to go to this retail amenity so that people become more and more used to, let's walk down to the park. We'll go to the little shops, maybe a food truck will ask for a semi-permanent spot there to get a permit to be down in the end, so that it gains its own momentum. The places like it that we modeled this on are all, of course, wildly successful, and they have wait lists and this, that, and the other thing. That's where we want to get to. But it's brand new this year, so people don't know what it means yet. So a good candidate to be the anchor vendor would be invaluable.
Okay. Is there a place you leave products overnight, like a?
You can leave your stuff there. You would have to bring your own combination padlock.
Okay.
So they're just going to be locked with a latch and a padlock. I can tell you that as a person who makes small things that are easy to transport, if I were to rent one, I probably would not leave my stuff there.
Okay.
But that's me. I think you would just go based on your level of comfort with it.
What are the
but
hours?
Certainly that's part of the, every Saturday and Sunday for the rental period, I think from 11 to 4. And then you have the option of being open any other amount of hours outside the minimum.
Okay. And is it's going to sound funny. Is there a place to go to the bathroom?
There, certainly for events, we will have a porta-john on site. I would have to ask Leslie if they leave one in the park during the full season. That is unclear to me.
Okay.
But it may be that is an expense that we have to incur if we're not already incurring it.
Okay.
Well, there is one across the field, right? There's a building across on the other side of the field that would be.
Oh yeah, the concession
open
house.
for events.
I mean, it's all the way down the other end, but and I don't know if that's locked or unlocked. So
Well, it would be open during events anyway, I assume.
Yeah.
Well, it might not be practical for you, but I just
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
think
bring it
for
up.
any vendor that was going to be down there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
would need access. No, you're absolutely right, and I don't know, but Leslie would know if there is typically one season long. If there's not, it's an expense we'll have to absorb, but that's okay because we'll be taking in income.
Okay.
And we'll just put a facade on it. It'll be the 12th Village.
courthouse. I don't recall Porta Johns being down there at any of the events that I've been down there for. Of course, I've been
Well, they
on
definitely
before.
had them. They definitely had them at the concerts, and we definitely brought them in for the Maker Faire. But since I've only been down there for events, there is one there every time I'm there. So I don't know what the answer is for when I'm not there. I know there's not one there now, but it's not really season. So
In an effort to increase foot traffic in the area, I'm working with a group of people, the same ones that put on the epic that will be taking place in the end of March. And I want to target the first Saturday of May from now on. It'll be a light turnout this year, but it's something that they've already got an activity. They call it Tour New England, and it's available as a virtual event, which I guess you put a helmet on your bicycle and go ride it, and it will come right very close to that spot. So I'm looking at that as the route, and I'll be working with those people before this month is over, face to face, close by. And
Cool.
we'll take a look at it.
what does anybody else want to know about the 11th Village?
Do you have something, Joe? No?
Nope. I'm ready to eat supper.
Oh,
Oh,
people get to
the-
eat supper? I should do that sometime.
I'm ready.
Just
I would
one
love
quick thing.
spoon.
Just one quick thing, Brian. I did mention at the Board of Selectmen's meeting last night about the Maker Faire that, to support that with the board, and that we definitely need to get the park and everything cleaned up in time for May 1st. So I did bring that up. Hopefully we get that all done and in place. As we all know, the park is very valuable to economic development, the mill, everything that's going on. So
Oh, yeah.
we do have to continue to maintain that, and hopefully we'll be able to get DPW over there to get that done.
Leslie and I just arranged today, or scheduled today, I should say, one of the April cleanup days. She's going to call members of certain commissions, and I think this is actually one of them, for the weekend of April 10th, 11th, Saturday the 10th, or a rain day of the 11th, to target the park to get an initial cleanup. So if anybody wants to make a mental note of that date to get your yellow bags.
Okay.
It's actually a challenging day for me because I'm hosting a rehearsal for my radio program, my radio drama thing, but I'll make it for a couple of hours.
Good work for me.
Yep. Okay. The last item is the Trainwreck Park update.
I had a touch base call today with NPS. Mallory Zink, who is the newest member of the NPS team, provided me with a whole list of potential vendors for the windows to the past interpretive signs. Those are the acrylic signs with the sort of see-through or semi-opaque historical photo overlays. And I talked to Paul Provost very briefly about how many stations they do when they do the guided tours. And I had a conversation with Scott Wands, who is my connection at Connecticut Humanities, about their Quick Grant program, which is what those funds that we have set aside are going to go to leverage against. By my estimate, in the month of June, for their June 4th submission period, I should be able to submit an application to produce 7 or 8 of those windows to the past. So those will be the first thing that will go on the ground up there, assuming we get the grant. I shouldn't talk as if we're going to get the grant. Mm-hmm. They fund probably a third of the applications that they get. But based on the conversation I had with Connecticut Humanities, and the strength of the application I'm able to submit, I'll go out on the limb and say we have a better than even chance of funding. You know, that's as much as I can say about that. But it's right in the pocket in their eligible activities of what they support. So it's a high percentage shot. Steph and Elizabeth and I and Mallory and I started talking about the outline for the final report of the partnership, which again is going to go and support additional grant work. We're expecting the UConn students to do their design presentation in early May. We need to figure out what works with their calendar. And we're chugging along. It's going to be a thing.
Sarah, please correct my memory. Wasn't there supposed to be a follow-up Zoom public meeting?
What
sometime
you mean another workshop? That was something we talked about, Charlie, but the UConn students seemed to be having trouble imagining how they could fit that into their actual course load since they're required to do a public presentation at the end. So what ended up happening as an alternative is John Kaczynskis is working on a youth engagement portion with a contact he's got through Putnam Rotary, maybe. And they apparently are chugging right along. They've got some design proposals and stuff that they're going to append to whatever we pass in. I'm not exactly sure how that's proceeding, to be totally honest, because mercifully it's a piece I'm not really involved in, but it exists. So that's sort of where we are, and I've got biweekly touch base calls with the partners, and then of course we'll talk about it at the bi-monthly trails meetings, and course correct as we need to there. But it's going to be a nice final report. It's going to be very useful, again, going out to seek additional funds. I've got 1 million target grant programs to throw against the wall using it, and at the very least, we're going to get interpretive signs, no matter what else happens.
Okay, anything else for the park?
Not for the park specifically, but Airlane Trail related. I did send in that grant application to the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Connecticut in partnership with TLGV and Teague and REC to run that pilot summer camp program that essentially walks up and down the trail for 2 weeks with a bunch of kids and gets them involved in some curricular. Some stuff is ecology, some stuff is local economies, some stuff is history. It was a nifty proposal. I've got good connections at the chamber. I don't know if those will help me at all, but I feel good that it was a competent proposal. So we'll see. We'll see. Just like the rest of them, right? I keep writing them and throwing them out there. I sent one in today. Oh, so this is the piece that I was going to circle back to regarding the 11th Village and 2 more potential sheds. I sent one in today. I told you I had 2 grants I was sending into AARP. They have a placemaking grant, which is very open-ended. So I'm going to send one in a couple of weeks to fund the rest of the Charlene sign. But the one I sent in today, which is my main proposal, is asking for $22,000 to spend $5,000 on a public art installation with the NIPS. Sarah Furbush up at the elementary school has experience doing public art installations, and she's sent me some concept sketches and agreed to do it if we get the funding.
Nice.
10 grand for a portable sound stage for summer concerts to replace the DPW trailer, which I can tell you as a performer who has performed on it, that would be a favorable thing. And 2 more sheds. So if we get the full nut, we get to do all of it. If they fund us partly, we'll, balance it as we need to. And if we get nothing, we get nothing. But again, it was a competent proposal. I put a great attachment together with the picture of the bags of nips and Sarah's prior art installation and the 11th Village sheds and the Maker Faire. You know, it was a robust application.
I believe you. All of yours are, it sounds like.
I do better with the ones I can be wordy. I don't do as well with the ones where I have to be brief. I'll tell you that right now.
You make my eyes tired trying to read this stuff.
Anne's
right.
laughing. She hasn't even seen any of them yet.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, wait till you get the 98-page one in. That's a good one. Okay, well, if that's it, we're up to comments by commission members. I'd like to say happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm sure everybody's going to be celebrating.
Yes.
I think Brian and I at least need a drink.
I'm ready.
We've had a marathon tonight.
I'm ready.
Elaine is off having drinks up in Leominster, so left me alone.
Leominster?
Yeah, it's her hometown.
I know it is.
Hey, Ken, what happened with that property that you said was going to be discussed last night?
The Lillian Ave property?
Yeah, you said something about the open space.
Yeah, that's the property. It's by a 2-to-1 vote. It's being referred to the P&Z for disposition. They elected to see what they want to do with it. Since we've had it since '06 and haven't done anything with it, that we should just liquidate it. And, you know, no foresight and vision for the future. And that's one of the things that we've had issues with over the years. So hopefully P&Z will see it the right way and just not say hang on to it for the time being as open space for possible recreation.
For whatever it's worth, and no matter which way P&Z goes, there are, and I didn't want to muddy the waters in the discussion last night because I didn't have the book in front of me, but I did look at the book today, the subdivision regulations. I'm pretty sure that parcel was a deeded open space set aside in a subdivision plan, which means no matter how it is disposed of, it is required to remain open space in perpetuity.
Yep.
Yes, it does.
So
that would be true.
So the open question to me, based on the reading of the existing subdivision regulations, which is what it would have been subdivided under, is whether open space also means for public use. Because if it does, and the commission agrees that the Board of Selectmen can send it out to bid, the guy might not understand that he can own it and maintain it if it's sold to him, but his property would be open to the public if that's the case, and that needs to be cleared with council. So it's entirely possible that nobody's thinking of that final piece, right? And it might change the equation for the prospective buyer. It might not. He might say, "Oh no, that's great. I'll post no trespassing signs at this point of the boundary, and I'll just own it and keep it clean," because that's what he's saying he wants to do. He wants to own it and keep it clean because it is his backyard, which it is clearly.
Just like every other house on Barnett and Leon and.
What's the address of that building? That property?
Lillian Ave. We've got
0 Lillian.
0 Lillian.
Right. Yeah, 0 Lillian. If you look at the parcel map, it's at the keyhole end of the subdivision, which is where they often plunk that open space. So it is this guy's backyard for sure. But there are also 6 or 7 other abutters to that parcel whose backyard it would be. So, I'll be honest, I'm fairly neutral on the disposition of it if the guy is going to maintain it and keep it open to the public, right? But I am not clear that the guy understands that open space doesn't mean just for his own enjoyment. And I'm also unclear if in fact that is the full requirement. I believe it is. I think that's implied in the language of the subdivision regulations, but it is not explicit. So I think council has to weigh in on that.
I agree, and the sooner we get a declaration on that, the better. Generally, conservation easements are factored into subdevelopments. I've seen them come across as part of wetland applications, and they're set aside, and they're supposed to stay that way. But I never read all the language on it.
Right. I don't think anybody disagrees that it has to stay open space in perpetuity. The crux to me is the nature of that openness, its relative publicness or privateness. And, you know, again, I didn't want it to become an endless roundy round last night, and P&Z is going to discuss it, obviously, and come up with whatever they come up with. But the guy needs to know what his potential burden is if what I believe is the case is the case.
Yeah, I understood that once it's set aside, it's not allowed to be incorporated into anything else. It's set aside as open space, or, you know, as a conservation easement to balance out the impact of the housing.
Brian, I'll send you the info that I've got on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at Google Earth right now. Is that the cul-de-sac
Yep.
Yeah.
area? Yeah, okay.
That's
Yeah,
the
there's a-
end plan. Yes.
There's a 4.2 acre parcel looking in from the cul-de-sac that's directly in front. It's a good sized piece of land. It's flat.
Yeah, no, it's very large. Yeah.
That-
Hasn't been mowed in a while. That's our fault. We should be upkeeping it. But you know, 4.2 acres, you can do an awful lot with that. Just
Yeah,
have
that's a very nice piece of property. That's very nice.
yes.
That
You
was
know,
all.
go ahead.
That was part of the original builder, Bonnet. Bonnet's father, when he built all those houses, that's been set aside for a long, long time.
We acquired it in 06.
Okay, because I sold the last house on Lillian, which belonged to the builder, Bonnet Builders. Probably about that time. I don't remember now. Maybe it was like in 10 or 11. I probably. But yeah, that project's been sitting there for a very, very long time. Waiting.
Can I share my screen real quick? I don't
Yeah,
mean to keep everybody on the phone here about this, but I just want to understand it since we're talking about it.
Yeah, you can share
Well,
now,
he's
Brian.
doing that-
Well, we all like each other so much.
While he's doing that, I have a comment that also relates to open space or town-owned property, and it is that the Department of Public Works recently went out and put some barricades to try to block people from dumping. What they were dumping is what they cleaned out of their pony stable and yard waste. And it came as a complaint to inland wetlands. The reason that I'm raising it now is at our meeting, I suggested that maybe those are the kinds of things that they can use at Fort Hill Farm for their biodigester. I'm not sure what they can take up there and what they can't. I would like us to reach out to Fort Hill Farm, find out.
They can
Perhaps-
take animal waste. That's
perhaps-
part of what it runs on.
And also, yeah, I know that, but also like yard waste. When we're cleaning out my wife's flower gardens now, and I'm taking it over to the transfer station, but I'd take it over to Fort Hill Farm if they want that kind of stuff. So my suggestion is,
I can answer that question for you, Charlie. Right now, they would not want that.
okay,
A challenge that they have is actually many food wastes are too bulky not to be digested by the biodigester, but to actually get into the biodigester. They don't have a grinder. So high cellulose yard wastes right now would not be favorable, but down the line might be.
okay, so down the line and somewhere between now and that point, I think we want to work with them, figure out what they can use, and have some signs made that probably EDC could pay for. There are several places around town where people tend to dump that kind of stuff, as well as a transfer station. And if we could begin to educate the general public that they could take it over to Fort Hill Farm and help a small business in the long run, I think it would be worth the cost of a few signs and having them put up. And I've been wrong before, but I think that that's the kind of thing we're looking to do, is to support farms, to support small businesses, to keep it green, and and to stop people from dumping where they shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm very involved with Kai's and her engineer in trying to strategize for the biodigester right now. All of those things are on the table.
Okay, well,
And I don't want to get into it too much tonight because we've already been here, almost 2 hours. But I have just, again, this week initiated a food waste diversion informational campaign with our food waste generators. The bakery is essentially already signed up. We're just trying to hammer out some logistics. So it's a matter of bringing these guys together. But yard waste is going to be a ways down for them.
all right.
Is this is the spot, right?
It's got to be.
Yep.
I don't
So
know.
is-
I don't know exactly how it's broken up here, but you can
Yeah.
sort
So
of see
is
the
it
guy's house.
is it subdivided? Is it already
No.
done subdivided or no?
Brian, I just sent you the supporting documents
Okay. All right.
that shows a little better. That's a what do you call Google Earth view?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got the actual
Okay.
parcel map view with all the
All right. I'll take a
butters
look at it.
around. I
Okay.
sent it there. There's stuff from when we acquired it. There's motions and different things about
Okay. All right, thanks,
accepting
Ken.
it. But it'll give you a good view. It's good flat land. It has a lot of potential. We have no recreation out in that end of the town by
Yep.
any means. And of course, they're talking about redoing Bull Hill. But, somebody in East Thompson is not going to run to West Thompson to go fly a kite.
I would
or-
agree. I feel like
walk.
that's a nice central spot right there. All right. I'll
Yeah.
take a look at it. I want to keep everybody on the line here. Thank
But
you.
take a look at it. If you got any questions, give me a call.
Okay. Ken.
You can look at Map Geo on the town's website and find out exactly the disposition of that property. I'm trying to call it in now, but I'm having a hang up.
Okay.
Hey, do we have any more comments before we adjourn?
Just wanted to thank Ann for attending tonight's meeting.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to see more of you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Signing off.
Hey, Tara,
Yeah.
you had mentioned, I brought this up at another meeting that you weren't at, I think. You had mentioned that I still had to be sworn in as a full-time member, or do I not?
If you have not seen Renee since then, you might still need to.
Okay.
I thought it is something you had
I've
taken
seen
care of
her,
with
but she
Renee
didn't
now.
say anything, and I didn't think of it. I don't think of it until I'm on these meetings, so.
Guys, I just lost my screen. Did I drop off your screen, or am I still there? I mean, I'm obviously
you're
still
there.
on my phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You're on.
That's weird.
Are we adjourned?
All right, well, next meeting.
Like Joanne. Joanne's ready for dinner.
Oh,
April
I gotta go eat
21st.
have dinner.
Yeah, next meeting, April 21st, 2021.
All right.
Maybe at
Motion to
6:30.
adjourn.
I officially adjourn at 8:46.
Bye.
Good night,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Good meeting.